Please join me in welcoming Sean Ironside.
Hi everybody, thanks for the friendly introduction. So initially when I thought about what I was going to talk about today, before my clicker died again, I thought I was going to focus on actually the campaign that I'm doing at Liquid. For those of you that don't know Liquid is a digital wealth manager. In the broadest terms, to make it sound very unsympathetic, we help people with a lot of money make more money out of their money. However, this also means that people with a lot of money trust us with their money. Now, one can presume that from a brand perspective, this is quite a big challenge. But instead of talking about our campaign specifically, which could maybe push you into a specific corner when it comes to the direction I chose from a creative standpoint, I would like to talk a little bit more about how I get to the point when I make decisions, how I make decisions, how we as an organization want to make decisions, and how we actually then execute them once we've chosen them. So maybe first, since I've been talking about myself, very quickly, who are you guys? You don't have to personally introduce yourselves. This is Kim, he works with me, so that's good.
Hi.
Who here is a designer? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, some designers in the house, nice to meet you. Who here is a marketeer in the broadest sense? That includes content, PR, okay. And who here is a founder? At least one, a couple founders, thank you, good. Maybe it's specifically interesting for you guys, but definitely also for the marketing people. So if you guys have any questions, there is a Q&A afterwards, but you can also hit me up on Twitter, Sean Ironside. Ask me questions anytime, tweet them at me. If I cannot answer them today, I will try to connect with you guys later and answer them online. So to get started, I wanted to do a little exercise. I know you guys are going to hate me for this. It's something we use in improv theater, and it's called mirroring, or the mirror, der Spiegel. And I'm going to try and just demonstrate it quickly, and then I would like you guys to rise up, pick a partner, and do it yourselves. So here, beautiful. Sarah, come here.
I have to
Don't be shy, it's okay. So, in improv theater, it's called mirroring, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say who my name is and what my favorite food is, okay? So, hi, my name is Sean. My favorite food is spaghetti. Now, what you have to do is not just repeat what I just said, but look exactly at the way I'm doing it, and try to copy my position, my body language, and mirror me, so to speak. So I'll do it again. Hi, my name is Sean, and my favorite food is spaghetti.
Hi, my name is Sean, and my favorite food is spaghetti.
Okay, your turn. Pick a partner. Just do it. Come on. Come on. You've been sitting around all day. This has actually nothing to do with our talk. I'm kidding. So maybe first up, how did this make you feel?
Well, actually, it was very very easy, and yeah, now I'm in touch with him, so I know him. I know that he does not love spaghetti.
Anybody else have an opinion on their feelings during this exercise that they want to share with us today? No? Okay. The reason why I was doing this is to illustrate that even though we focus so much on what we say, actually when we speak about communication and branding, psychologically, when the human is interacting with another human, more than 90% of what he is registering has nothing to do with the words that are being spoken. We're talking about body language, we're talking about tonality of the voice. Am I being loud and intimidating, or am I being very shy?
So he is loud.
Very loud.
Let's not lift all the secrets today. This clicker is dead, so we're just going to refrain from using it. So, what is a brand? A brand is essentially those 90%, right? It's not the words you use, it's not how you express yourself, even though we tend to focus so much on these 10%. We're building our first website, we're making a flyer, and we're so zoned in on finding the perfect wording, but then we kind of forget all the rest around it. So for me, and maybe for many of you, a brand is the reason you exist. It's who you are, it's your personality. And the question is, as a company, we don't know who we are, right? Are we the founder, or are we the people who work here, or are we like other companies in the space? And basically the challenge that we face when we're building up new brands is that we have to find out a way to give you a personality, give your company a personality. And it's inherently personal, right? So why do you need this? Obviously there is a business proposition here. And actually this is one of the hardest arguments we as brand people have to make, because people like Pepe, performance marketing, who I work with her sometimes, what is the value of this? What's the ROI? Can I measure this? Do I know what it's worth? We'll get to that a little bit later on, but in the broadest sense, you need this because it helps you stand out from the crowd, right? If you have one guy sells shoes, one guy sells shoes, one guy sells shoes, but one guy sells the shoe, by adding that already you've made it stand out from the other three options that you have. But let's take a step back. 50 years ago, maybe some of you watched the Mad Men show, 1950s, we kind of just got started on advertising, right? You had roughly a couple of newspapers in the United States, 2, 3, that kind of dominated the entire market. They would book maybe a couple of pages of advertising. The main idea was to do something as creative, as mind-opening, as awareness-catching as possible. As we move forward, the smaller boutique agencies that initially are like the pioneers of this field start to merge. There's larger buying power, there's consolidation in the space. Throughout the 70s, we see the emergence of the media buyer. The media buyer is who we could consider today's performance marketers, right? Inventories are growing. We have more newspapers, radio stations, maybe special interest TV, and so forth. And this requires people who understand what people are using what method at what time. This gets even more sophisticated in the cable area when we start having special interest television channels, right? We got MTV, we got shopping channels, we have sci-fi, we have history. And so we see increasing better opportunities to target the people that we want to talk to. Guess what happens? We invent the internet, and all of a sudden, thousands of web pages start flooding the space and make it more and more sophisticated. Then we enter the performance era. So for a lot of the companies that we now know as Germany's unicorns, we have the Zalandos of this world that had one major advantage compared to a lot of the older brands and corporations. It was their advanced knowledge of online marketing, right? So they were really able to outwin their competition by knowing when to reach the right person at the right time with the right message. But guess what? Big companies aren't stupid, and they started to access that knowledge themselves. That should be centered, I don't know why that looks like that. So what we see now is that the advantage that startups and a lot of the internet companies of the first day and age had is starting to be slowly made up by the bigger brands, and everybody has the same knowledge in-house, right? We have performance agencies that are helping us and other big companies to make up for that gap of knowledge that initially existed. So what does this mean? In the best case, that my job, and maybe some of yours, is required more than ever, namely that we have to provide opportunities for differentiating ourselves from our competition. So I call this the brand operating system. It'll become a little bit more clear later on, but in the broadest sense, the thinking behind it is something actually I grabbed from a podcast I heard a couple of years ago from a great brand strategist from New York City called Heidi Hackemer. And she was talking about how she works with Coca-Cola, the government, very large brands. And when she was asked how she would define a brand, she kind of started describing it, and at some point in the sentence on the side, she said, it's kind of like an operating system, because a brand is not just something you use in one specific place, it kind of is the foundation of everything that you do, right? It's who you're supposed to be, it's your personality. So this is the way I kind of define brand for me, is as an operating system that plugs into all the different areas of your business. So it's not just something like a logo or some colors that you put on your website or some nice brand elements that you define in your style guide. It's actually at the core of everything that you do. Is it? or should it be? So let's talk about that. So, now you want one, I hope. The question is, how can I get there, right? Because when you start, your story is very much probably built around market fit. Why am I doing what I do? Who am I as a founder? What are my marketing goals? How am I going to get there? Let's explore how we can get to that space. So this is like, Lydia in the back will know, this is like my mantra, so I always preach down this chart. Any journey of a user is kind of the classic storytelling funnel, right? At some point you become aware that something is out there, that something exists. In the next step, we need to convey to them why they even need this, right? Why do I need the Allen Iverson shoe? Why do I need Framer to become a better designer? Why do I need the Kate and William coffee cup collection anniversary cup? So once we've kind of triggered that need in a person, the next question is trust. Why are you the person that should deliver this product to me? Why are you the person that I should trust you with? Why are you the person I should give my money to? And in the last sense, we want people to act. So my marketers know we want people to buy stuff, right? We want people to make transactions to commit to our product. Problem is that a lot of companies nowadays do this. This is classic performance marketing, right? We have a banner that says, hey, look here, I'm on the internet. Look at me, look at me, look at me. But then all we do is say, click here, do this, download this, buy something. But what we're missing out on is this. That's what brands can provide. We are responsible for communicating why people need a product, and we are responsible for communicating why we should be the brand that you should trust with delivering on that. All right, so now we kind of know why we need it. Let's start to talk about how we get there. Have you heard of an MVP? Probably not. You've probably heard of an MVP. You might guess where this is going. Yes, a minimum viable brand. Now, when I started working, I started on the agency side, switched back and forth between companies and agencies. And on the agency side, initially, the way it worked is a company would come to a creative agency and say, hey guys, we need a brand, right? And they're like, okay. Rubbing their hands, okay, let's do something. They create something, there's a pitch, maybe there's multiple agencies involved. And then the founder or the marketing, the CMO, whoever's responsible for making the decision, says, it's not really us, right? Goes back in the black box. People with pens out all night, drawing, thinking, comes back out. Yeah, this looks more like us. Let me show this to my boss. The boss says, yeah, it's not us, right? So we keep going in circles and circles and circles. The next step was that we started the phase of co-creation, right? So now we have workshops. I say, let's bring the founder, let's bring the designers, let's bring the salespeople all into a room together with the agency. And let's talk about what we want to achieve, who we are, what we do, what our challenges are, what our market looks like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great step forward, but it's not yet perfect, and I'll tell you why. A creative director I worked for once, he said to me, the purpose of a workshop is to give the person who is buying your work the idea that he had an idea, but that he needs you to make the idea come to life. All we're doing is continuing to sell you shit, man. Come on, we're just trying to make money with you, and we're trying to give you the feeling that it was your idea, right? So in the end, it's just advertising for advertising. How can we get past that? In the first step, let's create a minimum viable brand. Essentially, when you think about how you want to position yourself when you first start out in the market, you have several choices to make. You can position yourself very much on the emotional side, very much on the rational side. The questions are just a little bit different. Why does your organization do what it does is a purpose-driven organization, right? Amnesty International, right? Values, who are you and your people? Process, how does your organization do what it does, right? So is it a process innovation? Are you changing something that was already there and making it better? Is it a new product or service? Is it something unique that you guys are selling? Maybe something that hasn't been there before, or maybe a better version of what it is? And last but not least, it's infrastructure, which means where and when does your organization do it? So do you offer your 5-minute insurance app in every country? What other people are offering the same thing? How does the space look? How do you make this choice? there's several ways of getting there. First of all, it could just be inherent to what your business is, but I believe that any organization can position itself at any point of this place. At this step, I would recommend to look at your competitors. And it's quite simple why you might choose to do what I'm proposing now. Imagine you are, I don't know, let's take Liquid, robo-advisor. What did we promise initially? We're going to have a superior investment product that has lowered the cost of investing by adding a digital component to it. So it's somewhere here between product offering and process. So I'm here, right? We have competitors, Scalable, Vamo, Moneybox, Wealthfront, Money Farm. Guess what they all do? So we're all standing here in a very crowded space, shouting the same thing at the people. Is that advantageous for us when we're trying to communicate something unique? No. So what happened at Liquid was we started here and we started going over here. Until at some point we were actually here and we were talking about why do we do what we do, right? Let's not get into the messages, but essentially we're trying to help you do better with your money, to provide you with optimism on how you can become a better investor by using Liquid as your assistant. Make that choice, position yourself, and try to focus only on that. Don't go too much into brand elements, into colors, into all those things. Try to stay as minimalistic as possible because you don't really know what the people think is good. You don't really know what the people think is the most important thing. And once you've created that minimum viable brand, you want to take some time, depending on how much of a hurry you are, 6 months, maybe a year, measure, see how people engage with you, see how the market space changes, and ask them some questions. So, when we look back at people who interact with your brand, it's what we call brand experience, right? So people, now that you've given them a chance and you've entered the market and you've done what you've done, you give them the opportunity to actually have first interactions with your brand. Now you can ask them like questions such as, I don't know, if our product was no longer to exist, who would you replace us with? What aspect of what we do you think is the most important thing? And so forth, right? I'm not going to go through all the questions that you could survey here. The idea is you are going to start to understand why people think you're great, and you're not going to continue to tell people why you think you're great. And I think that's already a big step forward. So, again, let's talk about the brand identity. Let's apply some of the learnings. We know a couple of the things. By measuring them, by listening to them, by surveying our customers, by listening to the people who engage with our brand. First, understand your brand universe. What that means is kind of what I was explaining initially at the MVB stage. You have to have different approaches for communicating with people in different spaces. We at Liquid thought that we were competing with all these other robo-advisors, but now we're kind of more at the point saying, because our service requires a minimum of 100,000 euros and all the other people don't, who are we actually comparing ourselves to? And it's actually classical offline wealth managers. So it changes our terminology, it changes the way we approach things, it changes the way we try to display ourselves. Second, create brand personas. I presume that everybody of you has heard this before, so I'm not going to delve into it too much. Get an idea of who your customers are in the most real sense. So not kind of median customers. You really want to try and hash out some very specific people that you could imagine being a customer or client of your company. Third thing, identify persona heartstrings and triggers. What does this mean? A heartstring is something I define as something that drives the persona, right? Why? What keeps him alive? What keeps him going? You know, is it, I don't know, is it because he's hungry? Is it because he wants to take care of his family? Is it because he loves traveling? What are those things? Step one. Step two is how can we use those things to actually activate the person that we're talking to, right? So is it somebody is he very fear-driven? Is he conservative? Is he interested in new things? Does he easily get excited? You get it. And fourth, we visualize all these results with a brand meridian. This is what it looks like. So this is the Liquid brand meridian for those of you that are interested. Again, this was something that was handed to me by a guy I work with, and I just kind of held on to it because to me it was the most powerful way of visualizing what a brand is. And the reason why I like it so much is that we have these brand poles. And when you look at them, it quickly becomes clear that they're kind of opposites, they're contradictions. But contradictions are lovely. In the brand meridian, we call them tension strings. Because Liquid, for example, wants to be individual on the customer level in client services, but we want to be standardized in the quality of experience we deliver, in the investment products we have, in the product we ship. We want to prove to people that we have 20 years, 30 years of investment experience because of our team, but at the same time, we also want to say that we are highly innovative, right? So every company inherently has some contradictions. Use those contradictions. They're not bad. They don't mean that you don't know who you are. They actually mean that somewhere suspended between that lies your truth, your brand messages. For me, I put these in the center because they really so inherently describe who Liquid is. We have these old investment dudes who are sitting in about Homburg suits, gray beards, old guys, and we have maybe people like me walking around in a t-shirt, and that's actually exactly what we promise, right? We say that we will deliver you a modern day and age investment experience, but we pair it with the investment expertise of some of the most experienced investment managers in Germany. All right, so now let's start building a brand OS. Again, you don't have to do this exactly the way that I recommend, but the basic step of what I'm trying to do at this point is we have the brand messages in the middle of the brand meridian, and what I'm trying to do now is pick one out that we think we care about a lot, so a Liquid, a trusted ally. And then I'm going to start to sit down with the different stakeholders in an organization, right? There's going to be the head of product, there's going to be the chief design guy, maybe there's going to be a CMO. And what we want to do is we want to sit down and we want to define goals that we think contribute to fulfilling our brand promise, right? Normally what we do is we make a brand promise and we say that the advertising has to make people believe the brand promise, but then we spend such little time trying to fulfill the brand promise. This is my path that I believe in into helping a company fulfill the brand promise. So just some examples. We say a trusted ally. What does design want to do? Maybe they want to redesign the main landing page. How are they going to get there? They want to test existing pages and survey existing clients about the user experience so they can find something that better corresponds to them, that makes them feel more at home, that makes them feel like they're talking to a good friend. On the marketing side, we want to better understand our customers and analyze their behavior. For now, this is very top level. You guys can go as granular as you want. Again, get a better understanding, provide a more fit to the target users or target clients. For brand, for example, it could be a very specific goal, like positioning yourself in a certain brand universe and becoming the #1 robo-advisor, the #1 digital wealth manager, et cetera, et cetera. And for product, it could be to launch a new version of the web app where we introduce telephone-assisted onboardings, promote more free face-to-face consultations, use our intercom chat pop-ups to offer personal assistance. Why? Because we want to prove that we are a trusted ally, we're here for you, we want to talk to you. So in the broadest sense, and we could pick any other brand messages, try to sit down with the people who are responsible for different things in your organization, talk with them, and try to negotiate things that they believe for their field of expertise contributes to fulfilling your brand promise. All right. So now everybody's at work, we're building those websites, we're polishing up those shoes, we're shining up the client services approach. How are we going to measure this stuff? We want to use brand tracking and brand life goals. Brand tracking is probably something most people are familiar with. We have brand awareness, which is the ability that of a specific user to recognize a brand. Again, you can do different brand universes, right? For Liquid, probably if we're looking at all brands in Germany, nobody would know who the fuck we are. But if we look at maybe Liquid in the brand universe of robo-advisors, probability is 90% of people would recognize who the Liquid brand is. This is how you're going to do your goal setting, right? You don't want to become the most popular brand right away in the whole wide world. You want to look at what is the first space that I want to dominate, shoot for that, try and get coverage there. Next one is brand usage. So we're asking people is how often do you interact with our brand? When was the last time you made a purchase with our brand? And then that leads to purchase intent. When within the next X amount of days, hours, minutes, months, depending on what kind of product you're selling, is a potential consumer planning to purchase your product? Of course, and I didn't put it on here, but I hope you're all doing it, use Net Promoter Score to identify very, very passionate clients and use them as your ambassadors, right? If there's people who are constantly scoring your 10s on NPS, they love you guys, so give them a call. Say, hey, do you want to come in and test something, a prototype? Do you want to do a testimonial? Do you maybe want to write something about us? Can we feature you in a video, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Last but not least, we have brand life goals, which is something kind of new to the mix, which is when we go back, simply the fulfillment percentage of goals that you've defined with the individual organizations, departments in your organization. So in the end, we have, let me jump back. In the end, we have these goals, which are external. How is the world seeing you and your brand? And we have your brand life goals, which is internal. How is your team working to deliver on your brand promises? Now, of course, we don't just want to stop here. We're gathering all this information, so what we want to do is we iterate. This is how we maintain the brand OS. We create a brand by sticking to our minimum viable brand, keeping it simple, focusing on what we want to deliver as an organization, picking our space in the brand universe that we think is unique for us and our brand messages. We want to start to build a brand. We want to configure that brand by defining brand life goals across all departments of an organization. We want to measure these things. We want to learn, and we want to adapt. So 25 minutes, 27 minutes. Thanks.